Hello, friends. That's so nice. I'm going to tell you a story about how unreasonable I've been. This is little Alyssa. She grew up in Windsor and she reads a lot. She fights with her brother. She's characteristically playful and silly. But what she's not are a lot of things that are typically mythologized in startup lore. She didn't build her own computer or learn to code at an early age. There was no lemonade stand. As she grew up, she didn't go to a name brand school and didn't have parents who were well networked to show her the ropes. But what she did develop was this fantastic ability of being unreasonable. And I've discovered, as silly as it sounds, being unreasonable has kind of become my superpower. And so I'm going to tell you 3 ways I think being unreasonable is actually a good thing, especially for a founder. And that's being unreasonably determined, unreasonably confident, and unreasonably ambitious. And so to give you some context, this is my colleague Kathleen and I. And last year we quit our jobs to start a company that was solving a problem I had. My long-term relationship of 10 years had come to an end at 27. My stepmom had gone through early menopause when she was 36, something I didn't even know could happen. And then at 28, I found myself in a new relationship with someone younger than me, and I was strangling it because I was freaking the hell out about when I was going to have kids. And ultimately, I decided that freezing my eggs made a lot of sense for me. But navigating that space was so complex and opaque and really quite isolating. And so we built Lilia to solve this problem. We make it easy for women to get fertility information about their body and options through an egg freezing concierge and an at-home fertility hormone test. But my foray into entrepreneurship started here. In 2009, I had a window cleaning company that I would run through the summers of university. And here, being unreasonably determined paid off. It looked like every morning around 6 a.m., I would stack these 32-foot ladders, much bigger than this one actually, on my dinky little red car. And we'd drive 45 minutes out to wherever we could find big houses. And we'd clean windows all day. We cleaned windows all day until around 6 p.m., where we'd go around the neighborhood, knocking on doors, selling more window cleaning until we filled the next day with new jobs. And I learned that if we ran in between houses instead of walking, we could do almost twice as many quotes in a night. And when the sun would set, I'd drive home sunburned and sweaty and pick up my flip phone, scouring through my notebook, looking for more warm leads I could close for that week until around 9 p.m. where people started to get cranky to get sales calls. Then, when I applied for my first real marketing job, being unreasonably confident paid off. In 2014, I applied for a content marketing job at Top Hat with precisely 0.00 years of content marketing experience. And I remember in the interview with Malgosia here, who ultimately took a bet on me, trying to conceal my sweaty armpits as I enthusiastically explained all the content marketing I'd never written, but had edited, and projected the confidence that I could figure out the job pretty quickly. And this was really important because Top Hat led me to Care Guide, where I was the 6th employee and eventually VP marketing. And it's at Care Guide that I developed the skills and relationships I need to build Lilia. Then in 2019, I let my unreasonable ambition loose. We set out to build Lilia initially as an at-home fertility hormone test, which we did, and you can go buy it now. In fact, please do. And but we've since dimmed focus there to instead create a future that I find much more compelling. And that's a future where women have unlimited options. And I think that looks like women freezing their eggs upon graduation, and it being this symbolic moment of passage into womanhood, where we celebrate it with a party. In fact, we've kicked off this tradition. It's called an egg securing celebration. And if you've never heard of it, that's because we made it up. There's been one. This is me at mine 2 months ago after freezing my eggs. Thank you. The world's first and only so far. And you can imagine the delightful confusion of the party planning people when we asked them to print "Run the World" in balloons for an egg freezing party. But this unreasonable ambition is already starting to pay off. In fact, we've had our first Lilia member who's 24 years old decide to freeze her eggs because of Lilia, and she's already started planning her celebration. Like Alex mentioned, I've been living in San Francisco for the last couple months, and people ask me, what's different? What have you learned? It's not the same temperature, but there's not a lot that's different, actually. What I do notice, though, is the difference in how we embrace unreasonable people. In San Francisco, being unreasonable is celebrated. We've seen it enough, right? Unreasonable people change behavior, leave their mark on the world, define categories. And so what I'd invite all of you to do, especially the women and girls in the room, is to be more unreasonable. Our country depends on it. Thanks. Questions? Oh, there's one here.
Hi there.
Hi.
I have a question regarding how the culture and the corporate support for women to freeze their eggs in Canada. I have a few friends in the US and it's very well talked about topic, whereas here I don't think there's any major companies sponsor such drugs or whatever processes. And when my friend asked a question at a women private equity event, they respond with, we're worried about the optics, that we're pushing women to delay their personal lives in career pursuits. So how does Lilia help change that in Canada? Thank you.
This is This is a great question because this conversation is happening. It's just happening behind closed doors. Women talk about this all the time. You'd be surprised, maybe it's not something that's openly discussed, but I find in a group of women, if somebody brings it up, we all lean in because we're all thinking about it. And you're right, in the US, it's much more common for companies to completely cover egg freezing. And in Canada, sadly, this isn't the norm. There are great companies like Beneplan, run by an incredible entrepreneur, Yafa, who are trying to increase insurance coverage for egg freezing. Because here's the thing. The argument around we don't like optics, to me, it just seems like a real red herring. Women are delaying having kids anyway. And so by not supporting them in this, we just make it harder for them later on. And then in terms of what Lilia is doing, I think it takes somebody kind of championing this space. And I think we're lucky that, I can raise my hand and say, hey, this is something I've done and I'm thinking about, and here's how you can do it, and here are the reasons that I did it. And we want to just make the entire process much easier for women, because I hear from folks, a lot of people will think about it and they'll go try to learn or navigate the system, and they just get turned off and quit because it's so Byzantine. And so if we can make it feel like something that's normalized and should actually be celebrated and is something you do for you as a radical act of self-love, more people will flock to it.
One more question.
Hi. Quick question about being unreasonable. You mentioned that you've been doing that your whole life. So on your journey as a female entrepreneur, where would you say being unreasonable paid off the most? Like, where did you see it make the biggest impact, like as an entrepreneur as you grew into the position? Thanks.
Yeah. I think even what we're trying to do is kind of unreasonable. The mandate of our company is to galvanize a generation of women to freeze their eggs, or at least be informed about their options. It's kind of crazy to think that we can do that. But what I just do is I don't really stop to think about how crazy it is. If I even think back to our fundraise, so we did a pre-seed round last summer pretty quickly, and it's like if I had stopped to think about how hard it was for me as a female entrepreneur or solo or being non-technical, I think that would have held me back, and instead just kept my mind focused on what we needed to do. And so being unreasonable and even thinking I could build a company like this. I don't have a medical background, and so I've partnered with incredible doctors like Dr. Prati Sharma to work with us. But it's just it's almost having this unreasonable belief in myself, I would say. It's I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to figure it out.
Thank you.